think by now it's safe to assume everyone on the planet has heard of Wordle. That was the game that's now on New York Times where you can make a guess of a random word that is 5 letters long, and it shows you these different tiles in different colors to show you each letter is the correct guess, or the correct guess but in the wrong position, or just completely the wrong letter altogether. And yeah, you can actually write this game in DOS as well. And so I wanted to write a little program here that's basically playing a game similar to Wordle, a 5-letter word guessing game. And so for that, we're going to start up a new program here, and we'll call this one WORDY, because WORDY is 5 letters long, so we'll call it WORDY. So at the beginning of my file, just like I do in all of our programming files, I need to do include standard.io.h, and of course that is anytime I need to do a put s or something like that to the screen, that's the standard input and output, hence the standard IO. If I'm going to be doing console stuff, I need to be doing an include conio.h. And if I'm going to do colors, I need to make sure I'm using graph.h. And I'm also going to need to know how long strings are. And so I need some string functions in there too. And so I need to do include string.h. So what does my main program look like? Well, let's go ahead and write that main program. I don't need to take any command line arguments, so I'm just going to ignore the command line. So I'm going to have empty braces here for main. And, you know, what does this need to be? Well, I've done a little thinking on this one. And obviously I need to have in here I need to have a place to store each guess. And so I need to do a character variable that is the guess from the user, and that needs to be 5 letters long. But I also need to be able to have a a null character at the end. So I need to actually be 5 letters plus 1. That's 6. And so that's 5 letters plus the null character. I also need to have the word that I'm going to try and guess as a secret word. I'm going to do care of the word. And I'm actually going to hard code this one as wordy, just so we have something to use as our secret word. Now, you would probably, when you write this as a program in your own little game, you probably would read from a dictionary of some kind, a list of random words. I'll leave that up to you. But here I'm going to go ahead and hard code in the secret word of wordy. Now, as I go through this, obviously we don't want to give the user an infinite number of guesses, so we need to know how long it's taking them to make a guess. And so we need to do an int. I'll just say guess num. That's probably a good way to describe that variable. And then how many matches do we have in our word? Basically, how correct is this word? And for that, I'm going to use a variable called matches. I'll go ahead and start this at 0. As always, since we're going to be displaying directly to the screen, we need to set up the screen. And we're going to do that using set video mode, and we're going to do text C80. And so that's a open Watcom function that sets the video mode, and it's going to set it to the plain text mode in color with 80 columns. And so that's what that does. Now, I'm actually cutting a corner here because the safest way to do this is to always check the return value of your functions, and set video mode will return the number of lines available to you. So I really should be checking the return value. So I'll say if set video mode is 0, then I know that I have got some sort of an error. So I'm going to do put s cannot set video mode, and that's going to be 80 by 25 color. And then, since I can't do anything else, we'll go ahead and return back the operating system with a return code of 1 that indicates a 0, or some sort of a non-correct error. And now I'm going to go ahead and clear the entire screen. So let's do set BK color. That's going to set the background color, and we'll set this to a color of 1. If you remember your color numbers, 1 is the value of blue. And I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. And that will be the entire screen. Normally you can also set the a window, which we'll do as well, but later on. But here we're going to do G clear screen. And that does the entire screen at one time. I also have a title that I want to be able to display on the screen. And so for that, I'm going to use another function that I'll write here called print title. And I'll just display WORDY. That's the name of my game. And this is a word puzzle game. And before I go too much further, let's go up here and write a print title function. So this is a void function because it doesn't have a return value called print title. Now, what does it take? Well, it takes a character string. I'm not going to be modifying it, so I can make it a const value char title. And what do I need to do there? Well, here I'm going to use con.io. I'm going to use create a title line at the very, very top of the screen. So for that, I need to set my background color, because once I clear the screen, it's going to clear it with the background color. So that background color is going to be, since I've got blue as my main color for the screen, let's set this one to be 3. That's going to be cyan. And now I can go ahead and set the text window. And here you need to give it the coordinates of the, by row and column, of the upper left and then the lower right. This is going to be just the top line of the screen. And so for that, I'm going to do a top line is going to be 1, 1. That's the upper left. That's row 1, column 1. And because it's only the top line, it's going to go on line 1, column 80. That's where it ends. Basically, it's the top line, the right-hand side of the screen. And once I've set that text window, I can now clear the screen. And instead of using the G clear screen like we used before, here we're just going to do the window. So we're going to do G window. Again, these are all functions from OpenWatcom. If you're using another C compiler, like for example, the IA16 GCC using the libi86, or any other compiler, you'll have to use different functions for controlling the screen. So here it's going to be a G window. That'll clear just that window that's on the top line of the screen. And I probably should now set the text color to be, what color do I want to have? Well, let's do it as 15. That's a bright white color. And so that's a nice bright white color. And we'll set our text position to be on line 1. And I need it to be centered on the screen. So I'm going to start at 40 because that's the center of the screen. I'm going to subtract half of the length of the string. I don't actually have to put this in parentheses, but I like to have it in parentheses anyway. And so that's the strlen of title divided by 2. And so that's what I've done. I've set the set text position to be the first line because it's just one line anyway. And then 40, column 40 minus half of my string length, and that will center my title approximately. And once I've done all of that, I can now use out text to display the text of title. So I did a lot of work there just to display the title of the top line of the screen. Let's go back down to where I was here, where I printed the title in my program. Now, at this point, I probably would need to have something, I'll just say to do. And this is where I would, pick a random word from a dictionary file. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to use the hard-coded value of WORDY. So now I need to let the user make guesses. So how many guesses do they want to do? So I'm going to do, here we'll have them do, let's do 6 guesses. And so that's where I need to do a for loop, right? So if you're going to let them make guesses, so up to 6 guesses, that really calls out for a for loop. So for guess num equals 0. And then as long as the guess number is less than 6 and the matches is less than 5, right? Because it's going to be 5 letters in the word. Then continue keeping the loop, and then at the end of each loop, we're going to do guess num plus plus, and that increments the guess number by 1. All right, so I need to have a function to read the guess from the user. And so I'm going to just write a function here, but let me call it first. And so I need to read the guess from my user. Probably should have some values here. So I probably need to know what the guess is. And let's be kind of flexible here. How long can this guess be? And so, here I'm kind of assuming it's going to be 5 letters because I have that up at the top of the screen. But let's always take that extra step to write our functions to be as flexible as they can. So I'm going to actually just pass it how long this guess can be. I'm going to write that function here in a second. That is going to read the guess, and that's going to be 5 letters. And once I've written that, once I've read the guess from the user, I should convert that guess to uppercase, because it's entirely possible that somebody had entered in maybe lowercase letters, things like that. So let's go ahead and make sure it's all in uppercase. And so uppercase my string, and it's going to be the guess. And so that'll convert guess to uppercase. All right, so the way that I need to do this, I'll then need to compare the guess with the secret word. And for that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of extra stuff. And so I'll just put in a placeholder here, compare the guess with the secret word. And that allows me to come back to that. Let's go ahead and write that function that will read a guess from my user and also to uppercase a string. Probably the easiest one to start with is that uppercasing of a string. So we'll do that. Void uppercase stir. Actually, that probably should be a char stir function, but you know what? We'll just do this as a void function since we're passing the string anyway. So there's our pointer to the string. And how do I do this? Well, I should probably track where I am in that string. So I have an integer variable called pos, the position of the string. And I'm going to now convert the entire string into uppercase. And so I'm going to do 4, so I can process every letter in the string. And then position equals 0. That's the starting position. And as long as I haven't hit the null character in that string, so as long as stir at that position has any value whatsoever, then stir pos is really all I need. And then at the end of every loop, it's going to be pos plus plus. So I can increment my position in the string. And then I can actually use a function to convert letters to uppercase. And so I'm going to do the string at that position, so the letter at that position, is going to be using the standard library function toUpper of the letter that was already there, stir pos. And so that converts a letter into uppercase, and by putting it inside a for loop, I basically uppercase the entire string. I think that's what I'll need to use later on, but that's what we'll use right there. And then, all right, so I need to have the function that will read a guess. And so let's go ahead and do, so I said before, probably that uppercase could have been a string, a char pointer, but I made it a void. Let's do this next one as a char pointer of read guess. And for this one, there's my guess as a string. Let's call it guess. And then how long is it? So int length of that string. All right, so I need to think about a couple of things. I need the letter that I'm comparing. I'm going to need the compare character by character. So I'm going to do an integer character of letter and then an int of ch. On DOS, an int is basically the same as a character, but this matches the function calls I need to use. And so here it's going to be use conio to read a string of length len, right? So here I'm going to use conio. So I need to do set my text color. And what do I want to do? So this is going to be a little pop-up window where I can type in the string. So I'm going to just do set text color of 14. And so what's 14? That's going to be bright yellow, right? Well, it's really bright brown, but bright brown is always yellow. And then set my background color to be 4. So we'll do this as yellow on red is what that is. So that's going to be red as my background color. Red is probably not the color you'd want to use for an input, but you know what? I'm just going to use yellow on red here anyway. Let's go ahead and set a little window position for it. So I'm going to do set text window. And this is going to be, again, the upper left and the lower right. So this will be the first line of the screen is the title. And I want to leave a little bit of a gap. And so I'm going to do this line 3, column 2. And so that moves it in a little bit, gives a little bit of a padding or a margin from the title of the screen and the edge of the screen. And then how much room do I need? Well, counting up the letters a little bit, I need to go down to 6 and 22. So that's line 6 and column 22. So that defines the window. And so I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen, but just that little window. So G window. So that's just the window. And let's go ahead and print a prompt of some kind. So print the prompt. So inside that window, I'm going to do set text position of 2 and 5. So since I haven't set another text window, the set text position is going to be relative to the window that I'm in. And so there's my set text position. And then out text is going to be a little prompt for the user, make a guess. And now let's go ahead and read some stuff from the user. Well, let's give a little information about kind of how long the string is. So we'll do set text position at let's do 3 and why does it need to be 10 minus the length divided by 2, right? So that's going to approximately center the prompt or center the text in the in that little window that I made, right? The window goes from column 2 to column 22. So that's a 20 column wide window. 10 columns in to be the halfway point. And I'm subtracting half of the length of my string. So 10 minus len by 2 should put me roughly centered left and right on that window. All right, so I want to, now that I've set my text position, let's go ahead and just do a little quick loop here. So we'll do a for letter equals 0. So I've got that letter variable up there. And then as long as letter is less than the length, continue doing the loop, and then letter plus plus goes happen at the end of the loop. And then inside there, let's just go ahead and put ch a single letter. So we'll just do a little prompt here. Let's just use an underscore, right? That implies that it's a space to type something in. All right, now that we've done that, we can read the guess. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So if we're going to read the guess, we want to make sure that as somebody types in a letter, that the letter, if it's a backspace, right, that means I want to back up one. And so we should need to be careful about that. And I know that I've got that converting a string to uppercase, but let's just make sure everything is uppercase. So I'm going to go ahead and start this this loop here. I'm going to set letter to 0 first. And I need to set my text position. And where is that going to be? You know what? I want to set that text position to be at the start of my string. So right here, I'm going to copy that and then paste it down there. And that puts the text input right at the beginning of where I had the prompt put. And now I need to have a big loop. And so I can do this with the do loop. And so in here, I need to start by doing, grabbing a character. And so I've got up here CH, and that's going to be just a single character that I'm going to read. And so I'm going to say CH is get CH, right? I'm going to use the get CH function from con.io, and that'll read a single character or a single keystroke off the keyboard. There's a little bit of a trick here, though, that if somebody types F1 or, one of those extended keys, how do you capture that? So the way that getCH does it, and this is, I think, a standard implementation, is if you hit an extended key, it will actually return 0. And so I don't want to have an extra, and then you're supposed to go and read getCH again. That'll get you another code. And as long as the first one is 0, then you know that the next code is the extended key press. And so what do I want to do for that? So in this do loop, if CH is 0, let's just go ahead and read another key. And so that will basically clear the extended key. Now, if I hit F1 or one of those other extended keys, what's going to happen? Well, ultimately, I haven't actually read another value in using getCH. I just called getCH to get the call over with, and that clears that extended key. But up here, I've got 0 in my CH function, or my CH value. So I'll have CH equals 0 if it's an extended key. And that's okay. That just means that it's not a regular character. It's not a standard ASCII value, or at least not a standard letter in the ASCII alphabet. So we can leave that kind of as is. So let's go ahead and process this now. So once we've got, let's say, a letter in CH, I want to go ahead and let's convert that to uppercase. And so, I probably could use 2 upper on this one, but let's just do it this way here. You can do it this way. If the character is less than or equal to a lowercase a, and the character is less than or equal to a lowercase z, then we can do CH equals, the capital letter A plus, and then CH minus A. Now, actually, that's kind of a weird way of doing it. You could really use 2 upper. That's probably the better way to do it anyway. But here, I'm just kind of showing you what's happening behind the scenes anyway. This is kind of what's happening when you call 2 uppers. It's actually just doing a little bit of math on that value. All right, so now it's always going to be an uppercase letter. And we now need to basically say, okay, if it's an uppercase letter, that means it's valid to put into our guess. So if CH is greater than or equal to a capital A, and the CH is less than or equal to a capital Z, well, that means it's a valid value, right? And so we can add it to our string. And so we can say, let's first go ahead and display it. So I'm going to do a set text position at the correct location. So you remember where we put it before. At the top of the screen here, you can see set text position starting at line 3. And then the guess was going to be displayed at a kind of a funky location. We did 10 minus and some things like that. So basically, it's going to be 10 minus the length by 2, but then we need to add to it the letter. And so that keeps track of where we are in the letter. And that should be what we're doing. That's going to then track the position of the cursor. Oops. And I can now display that back to the user, CH. Let's go ahead and also add it to the string. So our guess now should have at the position of letter. And when we're done with this, we can actually increment the letter. So we can do it all in one here by putting guess letter plus plus is the value CH, which we know is going to be an uppercase letter. All right. All of that is if it was a uppercase letter or some sort of a letter. But what if it was a backspace, right? So if it was a backspace, then if CH is the backspace character. So the backspace character in ASCII is actually 8. And so that's a backspace character. So I've got a block here that if CH, which was pulled from the getCH function, is 8, then I should basically back up what I've done. So guess, and then letter minus minus is, we'll just put in a null value. And then having done that, we can say if letter is, actually less than 0, I don't want to back up past the beginning of the string, then letter is just 0, right? That prevents my underflowing my variable. Because I don't want to have any positions that are less than 0. All right, so that should track that, and then I should probably erase that previous letter. So set text position, and again we were using 3, and then we had 10 minus the length divided by 2, and then we added to that the letter, and then we're going to put CH, and let's go ahead and use that underscore again. And let's go ahead and reposition the cursor. So we'll do a set text position of, I think, just the same thing, right? I want to put it back on top of that. So we'll do 3, and that's 10 minus length divided by 2 plus letter, LTR. And that should be what happens if we are in that, if the character was a backspace. And that brings us to the end of the do loop. Well, this is actually going to be a do while. And so do while as long as letter is less than the length. And so once I hit the length of the word, then we'll be done. I don't need the user to actually hit enter. We'll just know that we've reached the end of the word. And that will be return then the guess. All right, so that is reading in a single guess from my user. And down here in our program, we had read the guess, and then we made sure it was uppercased. And actually, the way that I just wrote this, I don't need to uppercase the string, but we'll do that anyway. We'll just keep that in there anyway. And then we should probably compare the guesses with the secret word. So how many do we have? So here I need to, I have a variable, if you remember, just paging up here, I have matches. That's the number of matches that I found. And so we'll say matches equals, and we'll have another function here called compare word. Compare words. And so that'll be, I need to have the secret word in there, right? So there's a secret word, and then my guess. And I want to be able to position this at the right spot on the screen. So I'm going to let compare words actually display some letters as it compares the letters in each word. So let's give it a screen coordinate. And so for that, I need to give it 3, because that's where I'm starting my my output. And then I'm going to leave enough room so that way each guess can actually display a little box. And the box will be, it'll have the letter in the middle, and then it'll have a blank line above and below that's in the box, and then a blank column to left and right. And I also want to have a blank line between each one of my guesses. And so instead of just being 3 lines tall, I actually need this to have 4 lines tall. And so it's guess num times 4. And then what column do I want to start at? Well, I a little bit of guessing here and a little bit of homework, and I think 30 will roughly center that on the screen. And so now that I've done that, we can actually probably write a little function for that. Well, as a reminder, you know, let's check the matches, and that'll be when we're done. That'll give us a reminder about what we're doing. Let's go ahead and write a function about comparing words. And so we'll do that right here. And so this will be returning the number of words that we have. So we'll do an integer function called compare words, I think is what it was. Instead of singular, I think it was plural. And now I've got 2 strings that I'm passing in. I don't need to modify either one of them. So I'm going to do a const on this, care word, and then const care guess. And then I gave it a screen coordinate, and so screen coordinates are in ConIO are always row and column, and so basically this is the word top, and then the word left. All right, so that's my function here to compare 2 different words, and I need to have some stuff in here. So let's do int matches, because that's going to be the return value of. We'll start that as 0, and then I need a couple of variables to track here. So I've got int letter. I need to have the position that I'm in, and then I should probably have the color. So we'll do an int color of the box. Because remember, the boxes for each letter need to be, you know, it's green if it's the correct letter in the correct location. It's orange if it's, or gold or something if it's going to be the correct letter but in the wrong location, and then gray or some other color like black if it's not a correct letter at all. So I need to have a variable there called color. Before I get too lost, actually, let's just remind ourselves what some of these colors are, so we don't have to keep typing in numbers anymore. So we'll do a define black of 0 and define yellow. That's what I was describing as the letter is a correct letter but in the wrong location, and that'll be 6. And then define green, and that's the correct letter in the correct location, and green is color value of 2. All right, let's compare 2 strings and display the differences. And for that, I need to do a for loop, because I'm really just wandering through the string. And so my letter, for letter, equals 0. And then what's my truth condition here? It's going to be word at that letter position. And yeah, it needs to be not null, right? So it needs to be a not null value. And so just that value, word letter. And then as long as also the guess letter is not a null value, right? So we're basically comparing to the end of the words here. So we'll do guess at letter. And then we'll do advance our letter variable. That's at the end of every iteration of our loop. And let's do a comparison here. So if the two are the same, right? That's the thing that we need to do. So if word letter is the same as guess letter, that's a good thing, right? That means that we've got the correct letter in the correct location, right? So it's the same letter. And then my color here is going to be green, right? I didn't want to keep typing in the value green and sort of tracking that number. So we'll just call it green. And now I can go ahead and I need a function that's going to display a letter to the screen. So I'm going to create a function here called print letter. And we'll give it what letter to print. So it's going to be guess letter, right? That's the letter that we're looking at in the user's guess. And we need to tell it what color it is. And where is it going to be? Well, it's going to be at word top because we passed that into our function. And then how far along into the word is it, right? So we can start at word left. That's the left-hand side of where all this starts. And then each box is going to be 3 columns wide because I got a single letter in the middle and I want to have a blank column to left and right. So that was a little bit of spacing. And so I want to have also a space between each one. And so it's going to be letter times 4. And so that's where I'm printing my letter. And then I can also say, all right, so my matches, let's go ahead and increment the matches. Oops, and I don't need that extra one there. All right, so before I get too lost here, let's go ahead and write a function that will print a letter to the screen. So we'll do a void function here because I don't care about a return value, and print a letter. And so what did I just give it? I said a single character of a letter. And then we had an int variable for the text color. And then an int for the letter top, right, the top of our letter box. And then int for the letter left. All right, so I need to look at, I need to be able to use a string here. So I need to have a, normally I'd be using out text, but it turns out that if I use, putting out a single character with put ch, it doesn't actually honor the colors and things that I want to have. So, I can actually use another one called outmem, and that takes a pointer to a string, and then I can give it, so it's the pointer to a string, and then the number of letters to print, and so I'm going to just give it 1. And so that's what I'm going to be using here. So I need to have then a pointer called char p. I'm going to go ahead and initialize that as being the address of the letter, right? So that's a pointer assignment. And let's go ahead and use con.io to display the letter in a color. So first we need to go ahead and set our background color. And we pass that color into the function, so color. And then we need to set the text color. And I always want this to be a bright white, so that way I can see it, right? So there's bright white is 15, bright white. And this character box is going to start at the the top and left. And remember that we're using row and column coordinates. So note that rows 1, 2, and 3, that's going to be 3 rows tall, right? So let's go ahead and set my text window there. So set text window is going to be starting at letter top and at letter left. And then what's the bottom right? Well, the row is going to be at letter top plus 2, and then letter left plus 2. And so that's my window. So what that does is that gives me 3 rows and 3 columns. So that way I've got a space in the middle for my letter, and it's going to have a blank, character left and right and up and above and below. And so that's what I'm going to do with my set text window. I'm going to go ahead and now clear that little text window using clear screen. Just the window. So G window. And now I'm going to set my text position inside that window as being 2, 2, right? So line 2, column 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the out mem because I can't use out text. Out text requires a full string. Here I've just been given a full letter, just one letter. And so I need to have the pointer to my string, which is just the letter. And I'm printing out one letter from that. So now we're learning another function here from the OpenWatCom implementation of con.io using outmem. And, I kind of like, when I was doing some experimenting before, I kind of like this idea of having a little bit of delay between each letter. What that's basically going to do is kind of simulate sort of almost like a fade in effect where it's showing each letter. Otherwise it's just bam, it's just on screen. It might be a little bit jarring, but if we kind of provide a little bit of delay between each letter, then it's going to look a little bit more like an animation effect. So just do a delay between each letter so we get a kind of animation effect. And so for that, I'm going to use the delay function. And that will be in milliseconds, so 100 milliseconds. That should be the end of my function. Now, this was a void function, so I don't need to return anything, so I'm okay there. All right, so that is displaying a single letter on screen. And now back here to compare words. So once it compares a letter, it's going to put that letter up on screen as it displays it. Now, that is if the letters were correct. Now, if it's not the right letter, we just have to do an else block. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated because we've got this issue of does that letter appear elsewhere? Does the letter appear elsewhere? So let's go ahead and first of all set the color to be black. And we'll say I don't have that open bracket there, but for the position equals 0, and as long as we're looking at a letter in the word, so word pause, because once we're at the end of the string, that word pause will be a null value, which is 0. And then we're going to increment pause. Now we can compare if that is the same one. So if it is the same one, we're going to say if word pause is the guess letter, LTR, then, okay, great. Then that means that we found that letter somewhere else in the word. And that case, we can now set the color to be yellow. And so that's all I'm going to do for my if. And in fact, that's all I need to do for my for loop, right? So there's my for loop. All right. So now that I've done that, I can now print my letter, and that's going to be guess letter, and then the color, and then where is it? And the same as I had up above. I had word top, and then rather than typing in all this stuff and possibly getting something wrong, let's just go ahead and copy the rest of this line. Copy, paste. All right, so now I've printed out the rest of my line, and then I don't need to have this one in there. All right. And so that prints out a single letter in either black or yellow. And so that's the end of my, up here is the end of my else, and then down here is the end of the big for loop. And then before we return back from our function, we can just go and return the number of matches, right? Because up here we'd been incrementing the matches every time we find green. And so we can just return the number of matches that we found. I think that actually is what we need to write a very simple version of a word guessing game, because here we are looping through our 5 guesses. And as long as the matches aren't 5, because we've got 5 letters in the word, so as long as the matches are not matching, we don't have a full guess, and as long as we have stayed below our 6 possible guesses, which is really 5 guesses, so then we've got we're going to read the guess, we're going to convert it to uppercase, and now that I look at it, I don't think I need that uppercase function, but we'll leave it anyway, and then we're going to compare the guess with the secret word, and yeah, if it matches, then we're good. It'll actually have exited the loop, and so that will have checked the matches there. And yeah, so here we can say if the matches is 5, then we can say let's use the print title function, so we can just update that. Print title, you guessed the secret word. And otherwise, else, print title. Sorry, you didn't guess the word. And now we're done. So we can just exit the program. Let's go ahead and read a single character. So normally we would do this again with just get ch. But again, that's going to return a 0 if it's an extended key. So I always want to be good. And all right, so if get ch is 0, let's go ahead and just read one more time from get ch. Not really meaningful here because we're just going to exit the program anyway, but I like to be good because if get ch is 0, that means that you're looking at an extended key, and then we need to call get ch again. So here I'm just basically clearing the buffer. And then once we're done with that, now we can set the video mode back to the default mode, and we return back to the operating system. So we've done a lot of work up above, but our main function is actually pretty small. So just to remind ourselves the things that we did. So obviously we changed the video mode so that way we can display it in color at 80 columns. We cleared the screen. We printed a title at the top of the screen. If we were reading from if we're writing a real game here, we would actually have a bunch of other code in here that would pick a random word from some sort of a dictionary file. But here we just hard coded the word up at top to say wordy. And I'm going to let the user make 6 guesses. And so that's what's happening inside this for loop. And so what's happening inside the for loop is that we're reading a single guess from the user. We have a function that does that one letter at a time, makes sure that that guess is uppercased, and then it compares that guess with the secret word. And at the same time in that compare words function, it's also displaying the letters to the screen. And now, once it's done, it was able to say, all right, either you got it right or you got it wrong. and then it exits back to the operating system. So let's go ahead and make sure that this works. So we'll save and quit, and we'll use the Watcom compiler and linker. Normally this prints a lot of extraneous output to the screen, which I don't need to see because I want to only see if I have errors. So we'll do -Q, we'll do quiet, and then wordy.c, and that will be my program. And I don't actually have a toUpper function. So let's go ahead and edit that. Also, no function for delay. That means I forgot to include an include statement for where those are. So we'll do fed on wordy.c, and I need to then include a couple extra things. So I need to include ctype.h, and that's where I'm going to get my toUpper function. And then I can also include, actually, I think that's also where does the delay function get defined? Standard IO, string, ctype, conio, graph. Let's compile that, see what happens there. So we'll compile. No function found for delay. So I've got an error in here somewhere, and that means I can't remember where delay gets defined. And I don't want to debug it here. Let's just see it. Do I even have a program that got generated? I actually do. So let's go ahead and just run Wordy, and we'll just ignore that that error and just pretend it didn't happen, see what happens. All right, so here we have our Wordy game, and so we get our title at the top of the screen, and it's prompting us to go ahead and make a guess. Well, if I didn't know that the secret word was Wordy, where would I start? Well, whenever I play these word guessing games, I actually start with some letters that are the most common letters in the alphabet. E is a very common letter. S is a very common letter. T is a very common letter. R is very common. So how do I make a 5-letter word? I usually start with stare. And you'll notice as I type this, it's converting each letter to uppercase, and it's moving me along. If I use backspace, yep, backspace. Ooh, it looks like I have a little bit of a coding error there. It's putting me up in the wrong row, but R-E, there we go. So, all right, so the letter R is the correct letter, but not in the right space, right? My secret word is wordy, so R is in there somewhere, but S, T, A, and E are not. And so I might pick a different guess here. And so let's just do guess. And so that one doesn't appear at all. And so we kind of knew that because E wasn't a valid letter, S wasn't a valid letter. And so we really haven't advanced our guess here. So I might make another guess in here and say, well, maybe it's going to be word and then words, plural. And you can see that I'm getting my green tiles. That indicates that the letters are in the correct locations. And so I've got green there, but S, we already knew from the word guess, wasn't the correct one. And so I might make another one finally to say, okay, well, what other word starts with W-O-R-D? And then I might make the correct guess of wordy. And there it is. I guessed the secret word. It says at the top of the screen. And what happens if I didn't? Let's go ahead and just hit space, get out of that. And let's run Wordy again one more time. And so I might make guesses that say, all right, stare. And I might make another one that was guess. And I might make another one that was color. All right, so I'm getting some different matches here. Since the secret word is wordy, O is in the second position. So that one's obviously going to be a green tile. The second O, kind of a not quite correct hint to you, or at least a little bit misleading, right? Because there definitely is an O in the final word, but it's definitely not the second to the last letter. So that should be a yellow or orange in this case. And because the secret word is wordy, obviously the R is showing up as an orange one as well because it's not in the right position. And so I could just type in some other words. And so I could do first, And so wordy is the secret word. So there's my R in the correct position. And I might do lever. And wow, it looks like I should have one more guess. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guesses that I've just made so far. And let's do another 1 point. All right, and so it says at the top of the screen, sorry you didn't guess the word. So as you can see here, this is a simple way to write a kind of a word guessing game on DOS. So what'd you think about this sample program and doing a programming example in FreeDOS? Let me know in the comments below. Also, thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. You really do make this channel happen. I appreciate every one of you. Some of you are sponsoring me at a higher level, and I want to thank you here, especially here for that. So thank you very much there. Visit our website at freedos.org. Join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you.